Good morning, Ms. Srividya Reddy, Mr. Sai Prasad, Ms. Tanuja, and Ms. Dikshit, Ms. Vanita, and other important people who are present here, and all the delegates who are part of this conference. A very good morning to all of you. At the outset, let me thank Ms. Srividya Reddy for inviting me to be amongst you here in this CII conference, Women in Network in the leadership role. I was just remembering when I joined my engineering in the year 1980. By the time I joined in my college, which happened to be in Anantapur, JNTU, the oldest engineering college along with Gindi, there was only one woman in the entire college, only one. So with my batch, 6 people joined. So that is the one change started. When I went there very recently for the convocation there, I found a solid 50% of the women in that college were women and working on it. And so today, particularly I say the engineering domain, wherein again if you look at 1970s, even in the combined state of Andhra Pradesh, we had about 5 to 8 engineering colleges available, 5 probably in the government, about 2 or 3 just came up in the private. And from there, today the number of institutions in the combined, if you look at the 2 states, probably about 2,000 or 2,500 engineering colleges are there. And we are producing about 1.4 million engineers. I'm sure if you take average, probably about definitely 40% will be women in that. So that's one change what has come in the country and which brought in a lot of change in later domains also. So if you look at, I was just thinking when I was the chairman DRDO, we have the highest body in DRDO called DRDO Management Council, where there are 12 DGs will be sitting, Director Generals and various clusters. So I used to have 5 women as Director Generals in DRDO in that highest body. 5 out of 12 was a very good number considering to be in this scientific and technological field. Similarly, if you look at the number of directors and number of program directors, including a missiles development program, there are a lot of women even today. There are at least 2-3 program directors here who are leading missile programs which are by women. Similarly, if you look at in the Ministry of Defense, I've seen since 2015 probably about 8 financial advisors or FADS to call it, or Secretary of Defense Finance. Out of 8, 5 are women who have been there in that position, who have been in the financial advisor. Even out of the 4 DG acquisitions what we had, one was a woman, Smita Nagaraj, who was a DG acquisition. Later the changes came in the armed forces also. I'm just giving because defense is slightly an important topic, and particularly for women, whether women will be there in that or not and all that. If you look at, so it started with Air Force, Navy, and even on the ship, actually the frigates and other ships, women, and then in the army also, women introduced in a big way. Started the journey in a big way, and now numbers are large. So there is a sea change which has happened. Similarly, if you look at about 30 years, 40 years back, there were very few women who were entrepreneurs and then having their own industries, their own companies. Today a lot are there. We were just talking to, before coming to this conference hall, a couple of organizations here who represent women in the industries and their own, like Conclave, Relive and things like that and all that. A lot of things happen. But then There are so many areas where still we need to find women in the same ratio, minimum matter, whatever it is, the 50% or whatever it is. If you look at how many Chief Justice of the states or Chief Justice of India, how many women have come, or similarly you look at the judges, or look at the chartered accountants, look at the company secretaries, and sort of a thing, still those areas still need to be picked up. I was in fact looking at the startups which are coming up also. Still somehow, even though the engineers ratio is good, still the startups where if you find the people who started their own startups or who have become CEOs, the number is still less, which is picking up. And of course that is started very recently. The startup culture here itself in the country, and then has picked up in the last 5-6 years in a big way. What I say is, in the year 2016, we had only about 458 startups or so in this country. And now we saw Honorable Prime Minister declaring in the Parliament that we have crossed more than 1 lakh startup is one thing. And then if you look at it, more than 80% of the startups are by youngsters who have almost all. There is one more important sea change, and many people who are going abroad are staying back here in the country. And today, even in our IITs, where the bachelor's degree IITs, more than about 75% of the students were going abroad earlier. Now more than 75% of the students are staying back here in the country. And the scarcity of the institutions also has come down. Earlier we used to have only 5 IITs. We have every state an IIT today. And we have ISERs, which is very, very important, which has brought in a change in the country. Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, they also come in every state today. And so numbers have gone up. And that's how the opportunities have gone up. If you look at even about 10 years back, there were very few incubation centers here in the country. It is extremely difficult for somebody to start a company, which was very risky, because he needs to invest a lot, needs to work on that a lot, both time-wise, also putting in efforts, and also infusing a lot of funds. And then the end, you are not very sure. So that's how there was a lot of risk involved in that, and people were not attempting it. So now the scenario has changed a lot. The incubation centers have come, so you are provided free space, you are able to work there, you have infrastructure, you have the equipment, and there are so many mentoring people and so much of opportunities in the country. What is that area you need to choose? A lot of awareness today. It used to be extremely difficult earlier. I think yesterday I was mentioning in the same CII conference. We used to look at a bigger industries like BHEL, ECL and all that. What part you need, I will make that part and supply to you, sort of thing was there. Now that is not there. Lots of opportunities. And there are lots of funding schemes also have come today. I'll just give an example which will be generally useful to you also. Then in the Ministry of Defence itself, we have 2 schemes. One is called IDEX, which promotes innovations through various competitions and all that, and where in every startup or MSME can be funded up to 10 crore rupees. And then when I was Chairman DRDO, we started a scheme called TDF, where technology development funding, somebody can develop a technology and a product can come. And we were funding up to 10 crore rupees that time. And then about a year plus back, we have enhanced it up to 50 crore rupees for any problem. And that can be funded through even a startup, through an incubation center also in any academic institute. And so a lot of opportunities have come where people started getting into it. That's how you are able to see these more than 1 lakh startups today in the country, and close to about 10,000 startups in the defense and aerospace sector. In a big way, the startups have come here in the country. And Most importantly here is, the mindset is not confined to one particular section or a particular supply chain or whatever it is. It has become a global competitive ideas what we are thinking now. Any startup you look here, you just go to here, T-Hub or even ISB or wherever the startups are, there are IIIT. The ideas or concept in which a person is working on is not looking at a particular market segment in India or something like that. Let it be anyone. He can buy from my idea, my prototype, my product from anywhere in the world. And so, because the ideas are globally competitive ideas, the funding is also coming. Most of the funding you talk about here, Skyroot, Dhruv Aerospace or anybody and all that, most of the funding is also coming from abroad. It is from US or from Dubai or Singapore and all that. So this is the change what has happened, and so that is making India as a hub of startups, a global hub of startups where we are trying to come up with the ideas. So in this, actually, the Spartan activity, particularly women entering into this area, is also has become large, as I said, in the number. With primarily I'm using the word engineering because more of this is actually more connected to engineering and aspects of it, about maybe 30 to 40% of it. As we almost have 40 to 50% of the engineers being produced are women today, and we are able to come out with that. That's how it is shaping up today, we can say. But as leaders, as in many organizations, as I said, areas like corporates, lawyers, and talking about chartered accountants and all that, I still think that we need to pick up the pace at which we need to get into that. What are the numbers, whatever we are thinking, is yet to pick up. Even though we had leaders long back in this world or this country, we had our Prime Minister decades back here, and at the same time we had 3 Prime Ministers in the country, whether it is Srimava Bandaranaike or Margaret Thatcher and people like that and all those. But still the number has been fluctuating. It is all some few individuals who were coming out and then they were becoming leaders, sort of a thing. But coming to today's world, and the theme today when we say, when we are all in digital, okay, that ALL is very prominently put, all. A lot of opportunities and every domain getting into digital domain, which is making the life comfortable. Like I was telling that yesterday in the CII, that theme was disruptive technologies. The disruptive technologies, one disruptive technology what we all are saying is the internet and communication is one of the major disruptive technology, which has evolved itself where the communications bandwidth, the speed has increased a lot, and then the reach also has enhanced in a big way, that more or less everywhere now we have the connectivity available. Even the fiber-based connectivity is also available at all the villages. So the connectivity has become a lot. So everything, every record, every information is available now and being digitized, including most of our granthas which have been living for thousands of years in the Kalapatra granthas are also getting digitized, sort of a thing happening, which is becoming, click of a button you have an information. But then, if you look at the statistics, people say today almost about 327 million women are less in number compared to the men in using the smart devices and phone. These are the worldwide statistics, what it says. This is one thing I primarily feel is the developed and undeveloped societies is the one which I feel primarily the reason is. Even if you look in our country, this ratio, this fewer number of people, women using the digital devices or access to the digital is primarily out of, I think, more into the downtrodden, poor villages and towns. This is what I feel when you look at it actually. One is primarily, the reasons could be, one is education, the skill set, affordability, availability, and of course the necessity also. These are all the primary reasons why I feel that less in the number from the woman is with respect to the distance. As I said that still when you look at the villages and towns, the education wise, still the women numbers are much lower, and many of them are remaining as housewives and things like that, not having independent activity, and then of course not having the opportunity to get their skill set developed and finding the utility. So the answer lies primarily having an independent task or a job on hand. That's the most important thing. So rather I put it the other way around, empowerment or making them have their own independent task and activity becomes the most important thing in life. That's why there have been a lot of activities and a lot of concentrations on ensuring that the women in the towns and villages where they are provided with necessary skill set to have their own a small industry or a small business, let's say instead of saying industry, a small business, where you are able to either manufacture or do business yourself is what is the most important thing. The moment you see anyone, the moment they have an activity for themselves, then there is a minimal device, what we call it today, a mobile phone is available. Otherwise it becomes that you share the phone or whatever it is and things like that, this is how it is. So we need to look at that, how we can ensure the woman, wherever it is, let's say, even in the cities also in the downtrodden and all that, they have an independent task, independent business, we are able to provide them and look at. That, when we look at it, how we are able to provide that business with minimal investment and having a capability to do a good business is one of the important things for us. So that is where we all have to look into it and try to see that sort of a skill set we are able to develop and try to see that focusing on the woman, and particularly in these sections, how do we do? See, as if you look at it, the whole problem can be divided into two. One is trying to see in the corporate leadership and on one hand, and where there is a higher end and lower percentage of the whole task is defined, how do we push it? And that's what majority of this focus is here now, where we are trying to see how we bring in leaders and we make them more and more get into corporate and all those things. Second thing is the other section of the society where the people are there, how we are able to empower them and create opportunities for them, and then they will be able to come out and become self-earning and self-business doing people is the two portions what we need to look at and focus on that. And look at various opportunities. Somewhere I think I've written down what all that could be the methods, initiatives on promoting gender equality or otherwise come out of the gender-based digital exclusion. This is one thing. So promote digital literacy among women, enhance access to digital tools, get into more and more into STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, mathematics and all that. Fostering women entrepreneurship, address gender bias, enhance women's representation, support work-life balance, develop gender inclusive policies, encourage gender neutral education, create safe digital spaces, collaborate with various stakeholders, data-driven decision making among women more. These are some of the points just I was scribbling down yesterday evening, which can bring in more and more gender equality, particularly in the digital domain, which is becoming very, very important in day-to-day life, and particularly with the government taking serious initiatives that the complete digitization and bringing everything digital and becoming more and more important, the thrust of the government. We need to look at that. I'm sure you will be able to deliberate on this, come out with specific recommendations and put it to the government, and whatever it is in the science and technology and defense and related these areas, you can give me the inputs also, which I can take it forward and put it to the government to take necessary policy making steps towards that, and make sure that in the coming few years this gap is filled and a complete equality is brought in these sections, and this particular word of exclusion, digital exclusion among women is not there. So my best wishes to you and all the best, a lot of attendance, and I think overwhelming response what you have here. That shows the interest in the people here, and I'm sure that you will be able to bring up many more people like you along, and this goes up. Somehow Srividya has been saying about 100 members. I think the numbers should increase a lot in a big way, and try to see that your leadership in various domains catches up in a big way. Best wishes to you. Jai Hind, Namaskar.